just want to make sure that the recording is on before I start the broadcast. All right.
Whoop. Was that me or you?
I think that was you.
Hey. Well, I accidentally brushed my keyboard, so I was like, what, is that me?
Oh.
Well, now we know it worked.
Yeah, it works. Okay. So 2 more minutes, and it'll just start the broadcast. It is already recording, so that's a good thing. I want to make sure that's working. All right. Ready?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm going to start the broadcast.
The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us on this Free Regional Association webinar. Today's webinar is on Apparel Decorating Masterclass. Our presenter for today is Marshall Atkinson. He is the Chief Operating Officer of Visual Impressions and Ink to the People in Milwaukee. Marshall?
Hey, I'm here.
All right, so whenever you want to go, thank you all for joining us.
Okay, well, great. Well, thank you, Rocio. I'm very happy to be here, and thank you very much for allowing me to help everyone out with some questions or some thoughts on garment decorating. So just a quick overview of what's going on and who I am. I'm the Chief Operating Officer for Visual Impressions. Our main bread and butter is the promotional item industry. So we've been doing screen printing, digital printing, and embroidery for firms just like you guys since 1990. This year we're going to ship probably a little north of 35,000 orders. We do all kinds of stuff from small orders to big $250,000 piece projects. So we've got a lot of experience with this, and so I really wanted to share some of my top overview things. Probably won't hit everything, but if you have a question about something, please feel free to chime in, and we'll see if I can help you. Okay, so let's get going. First off, okay, I'm hitting a button.
All right, it's not. Is it not responding?
It isn't.
Oh, there you go. That's
Hey! Right. So here we go. So, all right. So what we want to talk about is building a better relationship with your decorator. Okay. So why is this important? So most shops around the country, you know, they have other customers besides you. So what gets you at the top of their list and your stuff through their pipeline faster? Okay. So everybody wants to be able to get their stuff out on time. So I want to share you guys some thoughts on doing things to help your decorator out. There's just some basic tips. Most of you probably do a lot of this stuff, but maybe some of this stuff can help or really refocus some different things. So here's how we do it. One is stress the importance of the perfect purchase order. Okay, so what is a purchase order? It's basically the blueprint for what you're asking them to do. Okay, everybody here has a different system. Some people use an email, some people have a program, but basically there's some sort of something that you're sending your decorator that's communicating exactly what you want. Okay, so the main thing is that you want to have the correct information. Okay, what is very hard for decorators to do is to understand your PO when you leave off information. If you leave off the shirt style, or you forget to send the artwork, or you don't give us due dates or that kind of stuff, or you give us incorrect information, it's really hard for us to schedule that, to do things, and it becomes a big challenge. Okay. Next is colors. Okay. Regardless of how you construct your purchase order, it's really critical that we get the right colors. So for instance, if you're asking to put navy ink on a black shirt, and believe me, I've seen this before, we know that that's going to be invisible, and maybe somebody just didn't vet the artwork right, or you picked the wrong file. So this is how you prevent problems from happening and how you prevent delays from happening, because if you look at stuff and understand it, you'll do a better job. Next is understanding the quantity. Okay, we want to make sure that the quantities for your order are correct. The biggest common mistake that I see is POs coming with the correct quantity in the wrong column. So for instance, you wanted 30 mediums and you put them in the smalls or the larges, okay, and then the goods come in, everything is off, and that creates lots of craziness. So it can create delays, it can create maybe sometimes extra money, especially if you've got a really tight deadline. So really looking at your purchase order and making sure that your quantities are correct is really important. Next is looking at your artwork. Okay, if you're sending their artwork, make sure it's the correct file. This past week, I just had one of our clients send us the wrong file. We sent them an art approval form. We even did a pre-production sample. It was for over 1,500 sweatshirts, and they didn't get the right file from their customer. So now we're in rush mode to get 1,500 sweatshirts decorated and shipped out on Monday. And it's all because there was an art issue, and everybody checked the right box, but we didn't get the client to make sure it was the right one on the end user. So it's really critical that if you're sending artwork into the decorator, you make sure it's exactly what you're supposed to get. And also regarding artwork, one of the big challenges that I see a lot of times, especially on dark garments, is the correct screen counts and making sure that the underbase plate is accrued for pricing. So you could have a 3-color front and a 4-color back, and nobody talks about the underbase plate, and that could have an extra charge or an extra color count. It really depends on how your apparel decorator prices that out. And so you really have to understand how they do things and to make sure that your price is correct, because a lot of times, you know, you can't go back to your client after you've quoted it. So just make sure that you understand how they do things for the correct shirt color. Okay. Next is shipping. What's really important for shipping is to understand your timelines. You know, if you've got a rush order or a critical event date, and maybe you're ordering inventory, and you know Sanmar is out of mediums or something, and they got to ship it from across the country or whatever, if you don't ship that in with the correct time, what could happen is the decorator won't be able to produce your order on time because they're still waiting on those 50 pieces of medium. It's really going to affect everything. So make sure that you understand all of that and how shipping can affect things. And then also your shipping info for outbound needs to be correct also. One of the biggest challenges that we have is, of course, always address corrections. So, you know, it's the zip code or it's the street name or is it road or lane or circle or whatever. You know, what happens is even with third-party billing, we have an address correction, you know, it's $10 a shot, and that can really affect things when you've got a big spreadsheet for a fulfillment program or whatever, and you get into this arguing over things. So if you double check and vet that your shipping information is correct in your purchase order before you send it in, that makes your order go much smoother later. Okay. And then next, of course, is your dates, and I kind of touched that on a minute ago. Is just make sure everybody understands what's going on. Is your date like is an event like it's a Christmas holiday party coming up, or somebody's birthday, or it's a trade show, or whatever, or is it, hey, they would just like some stuff by the end of the month? Is it a big order and it you know, there's a lot of production challenges in it? Maybe it's front and back, so they've got to print everything on each side before it ships. Make sure you give your decorator enough time to fulfill the job, and if you don't, what will happen is he might charge you extra for some overtime or working on the weekend, or possibly he could even miss the date if you don't plan ahead. So it's really important that you give good dates. I've seen our purchase orders come in without dates, or the dates being 0000, and that's just because of how it shoots over from that person's purchase order system. So it's really important that we, as the decorator, really understand what's going on with your job, because we want to be able to schedule it so we can print it on time or even early, you know, so that really helps us. Okay, so next is buying your own inventory. You know, one of the great things, ways to build margin, of course, is to not let your decorator purchase the inventory, because if they do that, chances are they're going to mark it up 20 or 30%. So if you want to make more margin on a job, you know, you buy it yourself, and you're certainly able to do that, and you can ship it in to your decorator, and that way he's only charging you a decoration fee. If you do buy your own inventory, make sure you have an understanding with the decorator about what you're doing, and then also how does the misprints and defects work, because everybody's got a different policy. Most people have a percentage based on how many impressions are on the order, not pieces but impressions, so make sure you understand that. So some thoughts to talk about that is, one, is if you're buying your own inventory, you want to divide the orders up. So let's say you've got a screen printing job and an embroidery job. You don't want to send one big blanket PO for both of those, because that makes it really hard on the decorator to receive everything all at one time. So dividing up the purchase orders into each of the decoration types, or each into a different file, you know, like this is for the birthday party and this is for the trade show, that's going to allow them to receive them to the inventory that it goes to, and also makes it much cleaner for them. So this is a way to avoid mistakes. It's a way to make sure everything is correct, and it's a lot easier for the decorator, and they really appreciate that. You know, sometimes we get a purchase order that's got 5 or 6 different jobs on it, and it makes it really hard on our end. So this is how you get to the top of the pile, is doing stuff like this. Next is email tracking. So you've ordered some stuff from whoever you're ordering it from. You know, if you get a tracking number, sending that in to your decorator really helps them understand that they're going to get, you know, 6 boxes of sweatshirts on Friday, so they can schedule their jobs better. Okay, so it's all about trying to get your jobs through the system faster, and communicating more information always helps that. So all the other people that they're doing stuff with, maybe they don't send tracking and you do. Guess what? Your stuff comes in on Friday. You know, it's probably their first job up on the press on Monday. So it's one of these things where the more information you're giving your decorator, the better chance that you'll get to the top of the pile. Next is to double check. You know, so I see it sometimes, not all the time, but people tend to type things in fast, or they forget that, like a Gildan Youth, it has the B at the end, and so what happens is they order the wrong stuff. So you know, always pays before you hit send to just double check that your style, your color, your quantities, everything's exactly the way it should be. So when you order it from somebody and you ship it into us, it's correct. Everything that's on that packing list should match perfectly with your purchase order. And when the receiving department from your decorator checks it in, it should be exact match. So if there's any questions when they get it, they should be able just to email or phone you and go, hey, I was supposed to get this, and this is what we got. What are we going to do? You double checking before you order your inventory to make sure it matches your purchase order is just a critical step to make sure everything is going to go okay. Next is, of course, to send the PO. This, and I say this almost every single day, we get inventory in before we get a purchase order in from our clients. And I know, especially with an order that's last minute or toward the end of the day, they want to make sure they get the job purchased, and then we'll get the PO in the morning. But we get UPS backs up here at 9:30, and we get just between 200 and 500 boxes a day, and I can't tell you how many boxes we get that we don't have the purchase order from our client yet, and then it's kind of sits in a purgatory area. And so I always say, please send the PO. If you're writing a PO to your distributor to order the goods, you can send us a PO at the same time, and that way when the stuff comes in, we can match it up easier. So don't forget to send us the purchase order. Next is to, of course, watch your dates. You know, I kind of alluded to it earlier. You know, it's a big problem if you're ordering some kind of color that's not real common, like black. Maybe you've got some funky green or something that isn't going to be really prevalent in one warehouse, and they're going to have to order it through multiple warehouses. Make sure that if you've got, let's say it's a 100-piece order and 80 are coming in from one place and 20 are coming in from another, that those 20 coming in arrive on the same day, or at least enough time to allow your decorator to produce the job. So maybe you don't have to overnight stuff or second day it, but make sure that everything comes in with the correct time. And when you're talking to your distributor, when you order this stuff, make sure you're looking at when your ship date is to make sure everything is okay. Next is, of course, is communication. So I'm a big believer in over-communicating. So if you've got any kind of craziness with your inventory, or you aren't sure what would be a good thing to buy or whatever, you know, talk to your decorator. You know, we see tons of stuff all the time. We know what's really happening. We know what people are ordering. We know decoration problems. You know, sometimes some shirts don't decorate as well as others. We tend to know all this stuff. So before you buy some information, you buy some inventory, excuse me, you might want to think about just communicating with your decorator. Hey, I'm thinking about ordering this hoodie, and I'm going to print over the zipper. How do you think that's going to work? You know, it might be a good conversation to have. It's like, you know, this one really tends to print better, and that way you can make some good decisions, and you'll look like a hero to your client. Okay. I'm going really fast, so if anybody has a question, please speak up. So talking about inventory, another great thing is a PSST program. If any of you guys have had any experience, you know what this is. It's basically packed separately, shipped together. If you're newer to the industry, what this is, it's a way to order stuff from a distributor, and it gets sent to your decorator freight in free. And what that means is, because some decorators are large enough, they can combine all of their orders from all of their different customers into one box, and they just divide it up with a little bag or whatever. It comes into one time, so they're shipping so much stuff to that decorator that they can afford to ship stuff in free freight. So it's a really good program to participate in. My button's not working. To advance the slide.
Okay. I have actually a question
Yeah.
for someone.
Okay.
How do you communicate with apparel providers so the printer knows which order to match with the artwork or PO?
So how do you communicate with the printer about which artwork to match with the PO? Well, when you send an email, you can use the PO number, and just in the subject line, you know, PO number 12345, here's the artwork. So when you send in the PO, it's 12345, has the artwork to match, and then when you order from Sanmar, they put that in the PO field, so when we receive your goods, PO 12345, we can match it up on our system, and everything, you know, is all copacetic. So just using your PO number is a great way of doing it. You can also title your artwork, you know, 12345, you know, trade show, and that way it's actually on the art file. So there's a lot of ways to do it, and using the same, you know, PO number or the same language or the same wording is a great way of doing that. Mm-hmm. All right, so is that it?
Yes, that was the question.
Okay, great. So who gives free freight? Who does PSST? There's a couple of them, Sanmar, SNS, and Alpha Broder currently do it, and then we've got TSC. Whoops. Oh, I've revised this. Sorry. The companies that actually TSC actually, you have to have the minimum order. So there's other ones that give have a PSST, but you have to order a minimal amount. Bodick and Rhodes is $150. Cutter and Buck is $200 for their click line only. Heritage is $50, which is probably only a couple pieces. Rivers End is $100. Tri Mountain is $200, and TSC is $200. So it's free freight, but there's a minimum purchase for that group. Okay, and if you got any questions, my email is going to be at the end of the presentation, and I can give you that list also. Okay, so moving forward, let's talk about artwork. Okay, as a former art director, I used to do that. I used to be a designer. This is one of the things I see a lot of people, especially salespeople, that get tripped up on. So here's what your apparel decorators want you to know, and we want you to get this right when you either create the art, send it in, or ask us to design something for you. Okay, so here's some key things. First is, let's talk about vector art. There's the big raster vector debate, and some people don't understand what you're really talking about. Okay, and basically what vector art is, it's the program plots points. So if you think about, if you were going to draw a square, okay, you would put a point in each corner, and the program connects it with a line. Okay, so what's great about this is that it's resolution dependent, so it doesn't require pixels. So you can scale this artwork up, small, large, whatever, and it doesn't distort the image. That's why screen printers ask for vector art all the time, is because they can make a left chest or a full back with the same file, and it looks great, and they really don't have to do anything. The most common vector programs are either Illustrator or CorelDRAW. Illustrator is mainly Mac people. CorelDRAW is mainly PC people. Both work great. Everybody has their own take on what they prefer. Some shops use both. Some shops only use one. You really need to talk to your decorator to find out what they like to use. All of the programs, though, can specify Pantone colors. They can do a lot of stuff with special filters and doing different things. The slide that I'm showing you here is vector art, and it's got a lot of distressed textures in it. And then also you can see it's kind of shiny around the outline of the word. That's actually foil. all that's created with vector art. Okay, so it's basically a way that we can design to make sure things look great, have great crisp edges, and it's really perfect for what we do for printing on T-shirts. The next other type of art, of course, is raster art, okay, which basically most of the time is some sort of photograph, okay. The slide here I have is a photograph of a shirt we did for Baskin-Robbins, which is a whole bunch of ice cream cones, and this was actually printed digitally. So here, raster art, what that is, those are pixels. So the stuff that uses pixels are your computer monitor, if you've got a newer TV at home, whatever. What that is it all is based on how many dots per inch. So when somebody asks for stuff with a DPI, what they're telling you is how many dots per inch. Mostly what we want for a good Photoshop file is 300 dots per inch, which means there's 300 little tiny squares in a square inch. So most of the stuff that you can download off the internet, like you see a picture on some website and download it, it's only 72 DPI, which is why you can download it so fast, and it refreshes your screen fast when you're on a website. That doesn't make it really good art to print on a shirt usually because it's too low of a resolution. So there's only 72 little pixels in a square inch. So those pixels are much bigger. So it really kind of makes it hard to replicate so that it's nice on the shirt. So one thing you can't do is you can't make a 72 DPI file a 300 DPI file because what programs don't do is introduce more information. You can certainly make the file, type it in 300, and it'll make it 300, but it's not inserting more information. It's just making your crappy file bigger. So be very careful about that. Always ask for really good 300 DPI at actual size, and you can't go wrong. And most of the time, if you're dealing with marketing companies or ad agencies or people who have really good art department, they have this. Okay, so you just have to ask for the right question. You don't want like web-ready stuff. You don't want stuff that's going to go on the internet. What you want is stuff that they would put in a really nice brochure or some type of a really high-end printed piece, and that's the file you want. These files are going to be huge. They're going to be 3, 4, 5 megs for a T-shirt in size. They're not going to be something that you can just zip off and it's 300K. If somebody sends you that and it's a raster file, chances are you might have some printing problems with it. So be careful. Next up is I wanted to say that we can help. Okay, so all T-shirt printers usually have a really good art department. We're used to working. We can answer your questions. We're here for support. We can actually design your files. And also, most shops will actually, we want the business. So if you've got a key meeting in a couple of weeks with a new client and you want to wow them, talk to your screen printer. Say, hey, I want to show some stuff. You got a couple of weeks? Can I get 2 or 3 really cool designs? Here's what I want. And work with them and develop some artwork so you can go nail that client with some great artwork. And then once you sell that, they already have their artwork created, and it makes the orders go smoother. So we do this all the time. Other shops do this. It's not that uncommon. So don't forget that we're here to help you. Okay?
Marshall?
Yeah.
I have one more question.
Sure.
The question is, if we submit vector logo art for a one-color screen printed job, right, can you print part of logo at 100% and part at 50%?
You mean as a 50% of the size or 50% like a halftone?
They're just asking part at 50%. They didn't specify anymore.
Yeah, well, if you've got a logo, let's say like my slide up here is this ocean spray thing, right? So that even though it's an embroidery file, let's say that was going to be screen printed on a full back. You send me that file as an Illustrator file. It's vector art. I can print that full size. I can print that as a left chest with the same file. It'll look awesome. It's not going to be any problem. And that's because vector art, you can zoom it up and zip it down, whatever you want to do, and the file is going to look great either way you do it. Okay?
One more question came up. Do they help create the art, or we have to submit art that was previously designed?
Well, it depends on your decorator. You know, some people have art staff, some people don't. It just depends on, and some people charge for it and some people don't. It just depends on their business philosophy and what type of things that they offer. You know, a shop like ours, you know, we've got a whole team of artists. Smaller shops that maybe don't have one press, they might just have one guy. And it's, you know, how much time does he have? So it always pays to ask. It always pays to say, hey, this is what I'm trying to do. And, you know that, you know, they're your partner. So they can help you with stuff. It really just depends on what you're asking them to do and kind of how they do things. So there isn't like a magic bullet answer to that question. But most shops that I know have an art department. They want to be able to print good art because that makes their production faster. It makes it easier. So they want to help you. So if you've got a question, hey, I'm not sure about this, ask the question. Get their help. Say, I'm trying to do this. Or I'm trying to land this client. What can you do? Help me with. And what they'll do is they'll help you with that question because they want the business. They want you to remain loyal to them. So it's in their best interest to help you. And if you don't get the right help, then maybe it's time to look for a different decorator, I guess. Okay?
Okay, another follow-up to the previous question in regards to the logo.
Yeah.
What the asker meant was part of logo at a 100% and part at a 50%. This question refers to various screen densities and not size.
Right, yeah, that's halftones. So let's see if do I have some on here. Well, none of these really had a halftone. Oh, actually, this one did. So if you look in I'm pointing at my monitor like everybody can see what I'm doing, but above the Lafayette logo, there's these little diamonds, okay? And these were really huge chunks of halftones. They're a lot bigger than it normally be because we're trying to give a kind of a rough look, okay? But you can make your halftone size any size. Either Corel or Illustrator, you can select a halftone percentage, whatever you want to do. You can do 50%, you can do 30%. You know, if I'm choosing a halftone, generally I don't use 50% because most screen printing, you have a little bit of dot gain and it comes out a little darker. I tend to use 30% more than I use 50 just because I think that looks nicer when you print it. But, you know, it's art, it's all subjective. So, yes, you can definitely use a halftone of anything. You just have to tell your printer exactly what you want. Using halftones is a great way to add the appearance of another color without actually having a different screen. So let's say something's black, use a halftone of black, it's going to look great. Okay, and that allows you to print kind of a tonal of the black using one screen, and that keeps your production costs lower. So, yes, the answer is yes.
Thank you, Marshall.
Sure. Okay, just to catch up, where are we? PMS colors. So if because we're talking about promotional items, everybody's got a logo, everybody's got their own. I need it in this Pantone color. So make sure that you specify what that color is. So, you know, it's 286 blue or it's 186 red, whatever it is, let us know that. Put that on the purchase order. You know, you can't just say blue or red, and because you're leaving that up to a lot of subjectivity. So let us know what that is. If it's an official logo for somebody, they already have this picked out, okay? And then also when you talk to your decorators, matching a Pantone color, especially with ink, is really easy. It's not that difficult. There's tons of stuff. There's tons of ways to do that. And so most companies don't charge for that. And so it's one of these things where, you know, it used to be maybe 20 years ago, it was a big problem. But these days, it's just another thing. It's especially if you're printing for the promotional item world, it's a given. You do the work, you match a color, it's part of the job. So it's very easy. So, but we need that information. So that really helps us do our job well. And we don't want to not get the information and print the wrong color by mistake. So it's really important that you give us that communication right up front. Okay, so moving forward, next is approvals. Okay, so most art departments will set everything up. They'll do a mock-up. They have an art approval form. We send it to you guys. It's really important that you look it over, make sure everything is correct, and then either sign it if that's your policy or just shoot it back an email saying, hey, it's a go, in a timely manner, because everything that we're doing, whether it's embroidery or digital printing or screen printing, is being held up until we get that approval. And so it's really important. If you're on vacation, designate somebody to do that for you. If you know, if it's a rush job, please don't wait till tomorrow, do it today. Everything that we do in the decoration world requires some pre-production. So if we're screen printing something, we still have to burn all of our screens. If we're you know, doing digitally, we still have to rip or file. You know, so it's one of these things that there's a lot of work that goes into printing. It just doesn't instantly come out. So that's why it's important to be very timely with your approvals. On that approval form should be all the Pantone colors, should have the dimensions of the artwork, should have the location of where it's printing. It should, you know, if the art staff is up to snuff, they probably have it. If it's like this design, it's on a green shirt, they'll show it on a green shirt. And so you can see, oh, you know, you're using navy on a forest green shirt. It's going to be invisible. Hey, this is what you want, right? That's what they're showing you, okay? So do a good job. Tell them, no, it's supposed to be white. This is how, it's so much easier to correct mistakes during the approval process than it is after it's printed, shipped to your client, and then you go, oh my God, we didn't look at that. And so that's why approvals are a great thing to do, and that's why your print shop should really be communicating using an approval form system. It's not a pain in the butt. It's all about protecting them, also protecting you to make sure errors don't occur. Okay. So let's talk about shipping real quick. And so fulfillment. Most fulfillment, what that is you've got a program. It's going to maybe all the banks in your area. They order a big promotion for holidays or whatever, and every bank is getting 50 pieces. So what we get is a spreadsheet with whatever it's supposed to be. Let's make sure that all of your shipping and information is correct on that spreadsheet, that you guys vet the addresses to make sure the addresses and the zip codes are correct, that we know it's residential or commercial, if that is applicable to that order, that we've got all the quantities are right, everything is right and correct on that spreadsheet, and that helps us push those orders out. Any
Marshall,
corrections for shipping? Yeah.
Sorry for interrupting, but there was another question.
Okay.
I'll read it off to you. Sorry for interrupting.
Okay.
Where did the question go? Sorry. Okay. So the question is, you kind of glanced over Pantone matching. PMS colors are for printing inks on white paper, not for silk screen inks on colored cloth. Do you sometimes have difficulties matching PMS colors on dark substrates, or do you always underlay white?
Well, you don't have to use white, and your print shop should be able to match a Pantone color on a dark shirt. That's basic printing. So if you've got problems with your printer and you can't match a color, let's say you're printing a black shirt and you're using 123 yellow gold and 186 red. When you get the shirts, it should be 123 yellow gold and 186 red. So you don't have to use white. Some, you know, it's up to the printer to make a decision about what to do. Sometimes we'll use a gray. Sometimes we'll use a tan. Sometimes we'll use a different color. It just really depends on the skill level of that printer, but the expectation should be that that color matches, okay? And if you're looking at a Pantone book, what we're matching is Pantone colors with a C behind it, so that stands for coated. Those match the inks that we use most often. Okay, so there's coated and uncoated. The uncoated is really flat and really doesn't match what we use. So use a coated Pantone book when you're looking at it, and you should be able to match very easily what it is. And if they're not matching, then there's some issues with your printer. Typically, the colors that people have a lot of times matching are stuff that don't have a lot of opacity, like a light blue or a yellow or reflex blue, for example, that doesn't have anything to the ink. But there's ways to make sure that that matches perfectly to the Pantone color that you've selected, and your printer should have the basic skill to know how to do that. So, you know, I'm kind of throwing a lot of printers under the bus by saying that, but it's true. So, okay. So is that okay?
Yep. Yep. No feedback, but thank you.
Okay, sure. So anyway, so corrections, we talked about that earlier, so I'm just going to skip over because I'm going to run out of time here. Tracking numbers, you know, most printers should be able to send you tracking numbers. How that works is when we ship UPS or FedEx, those are automatically uploaded into our system, and we should be able to send you those automatically as part of just our relationship. Every shop is different. Not every shops have that system, but there are systems that can do that. You can always specify on your purchase order, hey, please send me tracking when this ships. If they don't have an automatic thing, you can ask for it. And that way you get a tracking number, and you know that it's shipped, and you know that it's going to the correct address, and then you'll know that when your client gets it. So that's why tracking numbers are great. All right, I've got some buffering here, so hold on. Hey, it's not advancing the slides again. Hello?
Yeah, I'm here. I'm seeing this.
Okay.
So. Oh, nothing, huh? Is that a Dropbox? Because everything else seems to be working just fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's like an internet connection thing?
Quite possible on that. I haven't encountered this one. That's terribly long. It's got to do with Dropbox, I believe.
Okay. So why don't I just keep talking while you're working on that? So a couple more points about shipping. One is using LTL freight. This is a way that you can avoid FedEx and UPS if you're doing a couple skids. Maybe you've got, I don't know, 700, 800 shirts that you're shipping somewhere or even more. You can use LTL. Your T-shirt printer can help you coordinate that. You can also do it yourself. And there's plenty of apps and programs out there that you can just enter the weight, how many boxes, it's going from here to there, and you can get multiple quotes all at once. A lot of people like to work with their different carriers because they have a relationship where you like their quality or their service or whatever. But I'm going to suggest something, that if you've got a critical date, like it's going to a trade show, it's going to a hotel to meet a guy or whatever, that you guarantee it and you insure it. And the reason I say that is because I've been burned before where we ship it and that wasn't specified, and it got the stuff got put on a train and it's going across country, and it didn't make the event because it's on a train and they can't pull it off. and that's a big problem. And so always, if you've got some critical thing, there's it's usually a percentage or some small fee to be able to do that. It's definitely worth the money because you don't want that problem to have where, and I liken it to, you know, if it was a football metaphor, you've driven the whole length of the field to fumble the ball on the 1-yard line, and then your client's mad at you. So you just want to make sure it gets there. The next thing I was going to talk about with shipping is blind shipping. Most decorators can do this, and that means we're using your account number for UPS or FedEx or LTL or whatever. Just give them the account number. They're not going to abuse it, and if they do, you'll certainly know because you get a report. But what's really great about that is all that freight goes to your account, and so that helps you keep your costs down. But also, it shows up to your customer when they track it that you shipped it. And then also what's really great is we do a lot of stuff where we're shipping in other people's packaging. So it's their mailer or it's their box, that type of stuff. You can do that with your own things, and it's a great way to build brand recognition. So instead of the Gildan box showing up, it says your company name at the side of it. It really isn't that expensive to do, probably about $1.35 or so a box. So you can calculate how much it would cost. Maybe you don't do it with everything. Maybe you just do it with certain level clients or whatever. But it's really a great way to build brand recognition because that box will sit there in their supply room or in their warehouse or whatever for a while, and they'll see your name for a long time. So that's pretty cool. Let's see what else I got for shipping. And that was it. I was going to go into sustainability next. So, all right. So what do we do?
Great question.
How about while we're working on this, did anybody have any questions I can just field while, you know, we're doing stuff?
No questions are coming. But do you have the slideshow on your actual desktop?
I do.
Yeah, because I think that's what, maybe that's something that we can try.
Let me minimize this. Hold on. Can you see my desktop?
Right now I'm just seeing the Dropbox presentation, the presentation on Dropbox.
Oh. So you don't see my, do you see this? I just dragged it over. What do you see?
Let me try this.
Do you see my computer?
No, I don't.
Okay.
Yeah, you have keyboard and mouse, so.
Oh, when ready, show my screen. Let's try that. Do you see that? Do you see my screen?
Yeah, there you go.
Do you see
Yep.
blind ship? Do you see blind shipping?
Blind shipping, gotcha.
Hey, how about that? All right, so back to where we were. So sustainability, asking the right green questions. I'm just going to go through this because I really want to show a lot of cool art things that we do. You want to make sure that your shop is, and what's really great about sustainability, and I don't know how much you guys get asked this, but everybody sometimes wants, hey, I really want to do a better shirt. I want to make sure it's green, okay? So make sure that your shop isn't, you're just not using an organic shirt. Make sure that your shop you're using is a certified sustainable printer. So there's only 2 certifications you can get. One is ISO 14001. The other is from the Sustainable Green Printing Partnership. And these certifications allow you to assure that your client, whatever they're doing, is being done by a sustainable printer, okay? And if you want more information, I can certainly provide that. Also, garments, there's all kinds of new organic or RPET or whatever garments you can get that are recyclable or greener. Your decoration, you know, digital printing is more environmentally friendly than traditional screen printing, so you can think about that. Most shops have recycling. You know, this picture here shows the gaylords that we use. One's got plastic, the other is paper. And then what type of information your printer can give you about what their program is. So those are some questions to ask. So I really blew through that. But what I wanted to show you guys was screen printing, okay? So this is just a whole bunch of stuff showing some different fun techniques that we've been doing in the past year or so, and so give you guys some ideas. One is to go for a tonal look. This is just white ink with a lot of reducer in it, so it's kind of transparent, and this is printed on a hoodie pocket. This is somebody's logo, it's just a bee. But what's really cool about it is it's got a real vintage look to it. It's real easy to do. It's only one color, and this really matches the decoration up with the garment. Next is using halftones. You know, one of the callers was asking about halftones. Here's a job that's only 3 screens. You've got an underbase white, you've got purple, and then you've got the wet white. But we've got all these different colors on the shirts. So we've got the purple just on the black shirt. We've got some halftone of the purple on the underbase white, and then it goes up in opacity with denser halftones to form different looks. So instead of having this to be an 8-color design, it's only 3. Okay. One of the things that are huge right now, of course, is printing on polyester. You know, the cost of cotton is going to keep going up. Polyester or dry fit shirts are huge. Not a lot of printers are really good at printing this. It takes a lot of skill to do it, especially with white, to make sure the white stays white. And also, what's really huge these days, of course, is anything camo. So I thought this was a good slide showing numbering and how crisp and clean you can get things to look on a polyester digital camo shirt. So that kind of wraps everything into one. Somebody was asking about Pantone colors. Your Pantone colors should always match. You know, here's this crazy green on a black shirt. So this is printed over white. Next is, here's some shirts we did for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. So you want to make sure this has a soft retail feel. One of the big things is everybody talks about you can only do this with water-based ink. Well, that's not true. You can use it with traditional plastisol ink. You just add reducer to it, you print through high mesh, and that way you're not putting a whole lot of ink down on the shirt, and also it feels soft to the touch just like water-based. But what's really great is you can keep your Pantone colors matching what they need to be, and this really makes designers really happy. Water-based ink is great, and there's a huge division between the reasons to use water-based or traditional plastisol, but you know, a lot of it is for how it feels on the shirt, not so much the reasons why you need to do it. So I just wanted to throw that one out there. Also, you can add reducer to your inks to allow for some transparency. Here, we're printing this red. It's got some reducer in it that allows it to print translucent over the other colors, so you can see how it prints over the light blue and also over the kind of the goldy flesh color of that guy's head. That allows it to look transparent. This is only one screen, but you get purple, you get all kind of different oranges and stuff. So it's a great way to add more looks to it with less screens. Of course, water-based, you know, we print for Ben & Jerry's, so they want water-based. So here's some aprons we're doing for them, and you can see the images look great. And it's just different ink. You have to use different emulsion. Sometimes there's extra cost involved in that, so make sure you talk to your screen printer about it if your client's asking for water-based. So it's kind of a different animal, so your screen printer can help you with that. Next is something called discharge. What discharge is, it's a special chemical that actually pulls the dye of the fabric out. So this design we did for Johnson Controls is discharge. And it starts off as a navy shirt, you print it with discharge ink, and then when it goes down the dryer, all of the dye gets pulled out of the shirt, and what's left is the original color of the shirt. It doesn't go to white, it goes to kind of a creamy tan, manila folder kind of color, usually. So you gotta, some shirts will discharge a little differently, so you gotta kind of play around with that. So that's kind of a cool effect. And this isn't ink, so you totally can't feel anything with your hand. It feels just like the shirt. If you close your eyes, you couldn't tell what was printed. So it's kind of a cool thing. Using silver foil or gold or red or whatever is always really cool, adds a lot of drama, and usually it's not that much more expensive, usually you know, maybe 25 to about 40 cents a shirt, depending on what your printer charges. So you might want to look into that. You don't actually have to foil everything. You can foil just part of it. Earlier in my presentation, I showed a slide with the outline was foiled. So the artwork has to be set up special to do that. So talk to your decorator about that. They should know how to do that. Also, I wanted to show how cool tie-dye is, and just doing something simple where you just have a one color, but you're using how the tie-dye is to focus the attention on the art. So here's where choosing the right shirt with the right decoration can make a lot of sense. Next is, of course, metallic ink. You can get metallic in any color. We make our own metallic. You can do a metallic of any Pantone color. You're not just limited to silver and gold. So if you want a metallic green or red or whatever, you can make those. And then my next slide is showing metallic black on a black shirt, which is just way cool. So I wanted to throw that out there. And then also there's a black, it's kind of a dark gray outline around that. So that's really kind of a neat look. Here is some shirts we did for Harley. And here's where matching the shirt, this is custom garment dyed stuff, matching the shirt to the design really plays a big role. You know, I talk a lot about how the design and the shirt are about 50-50 and how things look. So when you're looking at stuff, and you're especially something that where a client wants something really special, don't just get it off the shelf. Maybe look at getting something dyed, or a tie-dye, or a special garment dye, or something. You could do something really nice, and you know, maybe it's $1 or $2 more a shirt, but yet at the end they'll love it much more, and it has a higher perceived value, so maybe you can make a little more money at it. I wanted to show this is a gel print, so this has a very rubbery feel. I forget what this was for. I think it was somebody's birthday, but it was it's a date, but it has a real kind of rubbery feel, and this is also printed with metallic purple in it. So it's metallic purple gel, so it sticks up probably about 1/8 of an inch up off the shirt, so it's kind of a bumpy feel. So it's really kind of neat. Here's a different location. A lot of people just do a left chest, so doing it all the way down the side of the shirt is really kind of neat, and a lot of people forget to do that, so it can really add some more power to just a simple front location when you just don't want to do a full front. Here's printing over the collar. So depending on your shirt, you know, you do a V-neck. This is for a yoga studio. You know, we did the mandala here that kind of emulates the pattern of the shirt. It's just a one color on over the top of the collar, so it really kind of has a real retail look, and it's really not that expensive. You know, all the cost is really in the shirt, not so much the decoration.
Hey, Marshall.
Yeah.
Larry has a question. Can you do metallic gel print?
Yeah. Yeah, there's clear gel, and what you would do is you would suspend the metallic in the gel, and usually that's printed either through a low mesh, like a 60 mesh, or it's called high density, where they're using capillary film, and they're really pushing that up using a special screen. A lot of times there's an extra charge for that. So it really depends on how high you want it up off the shirt. If it's just you don't really care, you just want kind of a cool look, you can use a normal screen with like a 60 mesh, which is you shouldn't be upcharged for that. You might get upcharged for mixing the metallic in the gel, though. So you need to talk to your decorator about that, but it's pretty easy to do. So here I wanted to show this pocket placement on a hoodie. We're doing this more and more and more for our clients these days. And this is putting the logo, this is for Ernst & Young, putting the logo on the pocket, okay, of the hoodie. This is a cool location. This is the only decoration on this shirt. and it's getting away from doing the traditional left chest. It's right here down in the pocket, and it's really neat. So a lot of people are doing that. Here's this design was printed just using 3 screens. So you've got orange and you've got 2 grays, but we're using a transparent ink, so it allows it to do stuff. So it's really kind of a neat look, and this art was engineered to use less screens and to get more images, more looks out of it. So you know, you need to work with your art department if you want to do something like this. Here's kind of an angle view of high density, so you're seeing how high you can poof it up off the shirt. So it has a kind of a cool look to it. And this actually, the pocket and the spoon were screen printed on the shirt. So working with your art department, you can create some really cool effects. I just liked how this looked, so that's why I took a picture of it. And then also using different shirt colors with the same screen. That's called an ink wash, where you know, the white shirt had the kind of the gold color, and the blue shirt has the kind of the light blue color, and all they do is they just take the one ink color out, put the other one in. They're using the same screen for the print run, and that keeps your costs down, and you're doing multiple things. So it's a great way to add a little more oomph to an order. So let's talk about our embroidery real quick. How are we doing on time? Looks like we got like 2 minutes.
Yeah, we have 2 minutes left, but you know.
Oh, I've got tons of slides, so I don't know if it ends exactly at
no, it's not going to end exactly at 1:30. We can end it once we're finished with the entire presentation. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, let me keep going. So here's, you know, hats are always cool. There's hundreds of styles of hats. I know you guys get all the catalogs. Usually the only thing about hats is that center panel seam. Sometimes small type or parts of the design get kind of lost in that seam. So if you've got something that's critical that's in the middle of the design, make sure you get a sew out or you get a sample first if you want to see how it's going to sew or if there's going to be any problems. So that's you know, most hats can sew very well, and there usually isn't a problem, but sometimes you encounter stuff with the art. So, and then a lot of people these days are doing stuff on the sleeve instead of left chest. That seems to be more and more, and they're also doing more tonal stuff. You want to embroidery, of course, is always on high-end decoration, so on the garment. So people want to see stuff that's a little better, has a little more class to it sometimes. And so putting stuff on the sleeve instead of the left chest is we do that all the time for people. So I took a shot of this. Also, you can do stuff that doesn't have to be garments. So we do a lot of towels. We do a lot of tote bags and golf bags and stuff. So when you're doing towels, you want to make sure you understand where we're sewing. Is it in the corner? Is it diagonal in the corner? Is it in the middle of the towel? How do we determine that? So make sure you're talking with your decorator about what to do. Here's an example of some puff embroidery we did. Basically, puff is a really cool technique, and what they do is they put a piece of foam down, and they just sew over the foam, and actually while they're sewing, it cuts the foam out, and all they do is rip the foam away when they're done. Okay? So this design, the only thing that puffs up is the abdomen of the dragonfly. Everything else is just flat embroidery. So it kind of sticks up like a natural bug would. So I thought that was kind of neat. Tonal, you know, if you're specifying tonal, make sure you specify, is it lighter than the shirt or darker than the shirt? A lot of times we'll get a PO that just says tonal embroidery, and that's the first question we ask, is it supposed to be lighter or darker? You know, this really, for a black shirt, I guess it really doesn't matter because, you know, it's obviously going to be gray. But what happens if it's a gray shirt? Is it, what is the, you know, if you've got a thread chart, you know, you pick out the thread yourself or ask for recommendations. Most shops will have a standard about do they go lighter or darker, and don't leave yourself in a lurch of not understanding what they do. And I wanted to include this. This is 18 color embroidery that we did for somebody on a tote bag, which is more cones than we do. So what we have to do is we have to sew the first set, and then we have to take the cones off and then add a second set. So that really increases the price of stuff. And you can see there's 18 colors on this, but, you know, where are they? They're in the little seismic graphs, you know. So you got to really decide, is it worth it when you do stuff like this? And then what's really cool also is getting patches made where you're just sewing the patch on something. That really allows you to not have to have 18 gazillion stitches. So sometimes getting patches made is going to be more economical than actually sewing all those stitches. So you might want to look into that if the program is right. Here's some stuff we did where we did our branded on one side and we did names on the other side. This is really easy to do. Most embroidery shops have a name program where you just typeset and everything runs. It's important, though, to make sure that you've got it set up right. There's a spreadsheet or you're communicating. Also make sure that you're spelling everything correctly before you send it to your decorator, because, you know, there's a lot of ways to spell Lori. There's a lot of ways to spell some other names. So make sure, Brian, for example, make sure that we know how it's spelled, and we aren't the ones typing it in. Here's another shot of a tonal, some stuff we did for Corvette. And also I wanted to show pairing the right embroidery with the right item. You know, this is a tire company, and here's a really cool diamond plate hat. You know, so finding the right piece sometimes makes the big difference. If this was just a black hat, it's kind of boring. Finding the right hat is, you know, is what's key. And if you need help doing that, hey, I've got this program. You know, we come in contact with all kinds of stuff all the time. We can help you with that usually. Here's the side of a hat. A lot of people just do the fronts, but, you know, sometimes you forget about it. You can do the back, you can do the side, you can do all kinds of stuff. So I was just showing that. Applique is just like doing patches. The bottom thing there was applique. Here's how we embroider on golf bags. Usually, I think this is an Ogio bag. You know, the whole pocket thing zips off, and we just embroider that piece, and then we just zip it back on. Here's some tote bags that we did for Harley. Same thing. You can see the hoop marks. These haven't been steamed out yet, but you know, it's real easy to embroider all this stuff because they make it easy for us. You can also embroider knit hats. You know, it's winter. You know, I'm in Wisconsin, so we see a lot of this stuff. So embroidering this kind of stuff takes some time, and you can only do so much because of the weave of the hat. So this is where you really need to get some samples made before you present it to a client. And of course, fleece. Everybody loves fleece. Some fleece sews better than others. Columbia is great. We do a lot of Columbia stuff. And then I want to go through digital printing real quick. More and more jobs are being done digitally because of you see these machines, the equipment is being made better. You know, about 5 or 6 years ago, there was a lot of digital printers out there that weren't as good. They couldn't print on all the colors. It was hard printing on darks. These days, the equipment is much better. The inks are much better. The printers know how to use them. So you might have done some digital stuff before. These days, I think you might want to reassess that. What's really great about digital is that it doesn't use any halftones. You can keep really super sharp artwork. You know, this is something we did for the Field Museum in Chicago, and this is their supplied artwork, and it was just awesome. So here's some different types of images. People are really great with digital. There aren't any halftones, so the photographs come out just looking like photographs. Of course, we can print only what you provide us, so if you've got great art, it'll look great. If you've got not so great art, it might be a challenge. It's perfect for small orders with lots of colors. If you were to screen print this 12-piece job, it would be astronomically expensive. It's not so bad on a digital printer, and the images look wonderful. You know, it's great for gradations. You don't have any halftones, so it's super smooth. Here's a picture that's zooming in on some detail. You can see all the wiring on the Brooklyn Bridge there, or whatever that's supposed to be, and then all the detail in the artwork is just phenomenal. This was on a black shirt, and this area is about a 4 by 4 inch area. So it really looks great when you zoom in. You get bold, rich color. Here, look at the red. You know, previously digital printing, the red would come out kind of orangey looking. Here it's really nice and bright. And then what's really cool is everybody wants to print like kids stuff. So how do you print that crayon drawing? You know, you could take a picture of it and scan it in, and then we could use it for a design, and that's what they did here. This was digitally printed on this denim blue shirt. It looks really cool because this is some kid's artwork. And you can see the little seashells at the bottom. So. And then my last thing is to talk about heat transfers. These are really great, and they're often forgotten when we talk about doing stuff for the promotional item industry. What's really great about doing heat transfers is these can be pre-made up in advance and used for neck labels or program orders, or you got a company store where they're only ordering 2 or 3 pieces at a time, and you know it's really rough to set that screen up and print those 2 shirts. It's really easy to print sheets of the same logo and then just heat press them onto the shirt. So I wanted to show some examples of that. Here's an example of the heat press, how they look. Everything is printed backwards. So here's some stuff that we did for Jimmy Dean sausage. Everything is printed backwards, and then we print them on he just cut them out, put them on a thing. We did these foam hats because we're up in Wisconsin, so everybody's about the Packers. So we did these foam hats a year or 2 ago. Those are all heat transfers. Of course, names and numbers are all heat transfers. Most of this stuff was vinyl cut. You guys are probably ordered stuff from Stalls or Versatrans before. A lot of apparel decorators have their own vinyl cutters. We do. It makes it really easy to do. You can also custom cut stuff with different fonts and stuff, so you're not obligated to use the same ordinary whatever. So it's a great way of doing stuff that adds a little more zip to stuff when you can use somebody's font. Here's the company program that I was talking about. We do a lot of stuff for State Farm. So, you know, we send 1 shirt. Well, how do you screen print 1 shirt? Well, you don't. What you do is you make up plastisol heat transfers, and then as they order them, you just heat press it, and then you ship it out, and you get a quicker turnaround, you get a lower production cost, and it's a win-win for the rep and also for the decorator, because you can get more of stuff through the pipe faster. You can also we do graduation sashes, we do ties. This is silk. It's really hard to tell in the picture, but this is a silk graduation sash like you'd use when you graduate college. And this is 100% plastisol heat transfer. We printed this here. This is vector art. We make up a whole bunch of these, and then the graduation class gets them. It's real easy to do. You can also get digitally printed stuff. Here's some stuff we did for McDonald's for some aprons with a Big Mac on it. And so this stuff comes out really nice. Sometimes product is really hard to decorate, which is why a heat transfer makes sense, where it's got to look exactly like the thing. Screen printing might be not be an option, but digitally doing a heat transfer might work. So here's a picture of that. Doing hats is real easy. So here's a heat transfer we did on a foam trucker hat. We did some glitter stuff, which is really cool. And this is just 100% printed here using glitter ink. We make these for Summerfest up here in Milwaukee, and has a really nice look to it. Here's where you can do a hat and a shirt using the same logo, where it's for a custom store and they don't want to order a bunch in advance and have a lot of inventory. So what you do is you do them in sets in really low orders, and you just keep a box of these around, and when they order, you fire them off, and they're really easy to do. And then here's another heat transfer we did for McDonald's. These are for employee uniforms. You can't go over the seam, obviously, so you do it in that panel right there. Makes it real easy to get those out. And then, of course, that's it. So that's the end of my presentation. Thanks for allowing me to present. And then the last slide is my contact information. That's our website, Visual Impressions, and then that's my email and my phone number. I'd love to help anybody with anything. If you've got any questions, you can reach me at this information, and there you go.
Marshall, thank you so much for presenting this wonderful PowerPoint here. Again, if you want to contact Marshall, there's his email address and his phone number, or you can reach me, Rocio, at SAGNY.org. This presentation will be available on our YouTube channel next week. And also the presentation can be emailed you, a link to the presentation can be emailed to you, so you can have that as well. And if you have any questions, again, feel free to email us. Thank you all so very much for attending this webinar. Have a great day. Thank you, Marshall.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.